Sure.
And there we saw the late Queen Elizabeth returning home to Buckingham Palace. Crowds welcoming her, cheering, 3 cheers, clapping, filming, taking photographs. The police outriders stopped once they had delivered her, their heads bowed, and the people entirely silent until they saw their queen returning home. How many thousands of times has she been driven through those gates during her 70 years reign? And she has come home.
I remember the image of the coronation of the golden coronation coach coming out through that main gate as she went down with cheering crowds welcoming her as the new young 26-year-old, it was 1953, 26-year-old queen. And now, 70 years on from when she became queen, back in again for the last time before her coffin in what will be an immensely powerful journey as well before the lying estate, going back down here to Westminster Hall, where she will be placed on the catafalque where her coffin will lie in state, guarded for 4 days.
And inside the palace now, her family, led by the king, have been preparing to meet her. And Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, brought her mother home, escorted her all the way.
He brought her the whole way home and issued that statement earlier saying just to my mother, the Queen, thank you. But the state hearse that we've been hearing so much about is driven through the centre gate and through the centre arch. It's important to point out that what's happening inside the quadrangle now is a moment for the family. That's looking away from Buckingham Palace and up the Mall.
With all the Union flags there.
So they allowed those people to come down just to the edge of the Queen Victoria Memorial a short while ago, so they could witness the hearse go round the memorial. And what struck me, I think, Mary, as I think it did you as well, was seeing all those police outriders with their heads bowed as the state hearse went past them and went through the centre gate, her gate, and through the centre arch and into the quadrangle of Buckingham Palace. And beyond that, it's all about the family. It's all about them having a private moment.
Some private time, some downtime, some reflective time, probably comparing their experiences of what it was like and talking about her, talking about the day ahead, the days ahead, wondering what it will be like. You will always remember they are a family as well as the institution that is the royal family.
It seems that so many days have passed since we got the news of her death, but there are plenty of days to go until the funeral, which is on Monday. It's almost a full week away, and the people are going to be lining up now because they want to get ready to pay their respects in the Great Hall when she's actually lying in state there tomorrow.
We've had a taste of it here tonight in the dark and in the rain, but tomorrow there will be more remarkable scenes on the Mall as members of the royal family, including the King, will process behind the coffin as it walks right up there. He will walk behind the coffin as it is taken up the Mall towards Horse Guards and on its way to Westminster Hall for this lying in state. And we can only predict what the scenes are going to be like for that lying in state, but everyone at the moment is talking about crowds 24 hours a day. They will announce the route of the queue very shortly. It's so many people are going to be here. They think not only to witness that, but also for the coffin as well.
Let's take the opportunity to have a look at those pictures again of the cortege arriving, the police outriders, the lights within the state hearse, illuminating the coffin with that magnificent standard. And the cheers of the crowd. The cheers as that hearse passes round, giving everyone a chance to see. Look at all the mobile phones, look at all the lights, they're like stars in the sky, like Christmas lights. The cheers and the clapping of the crowd. In a moment we will see the police outriders waiting for her with their heads bowed. All of it, speaking for myself, like very moving. Shows right down. The final moment straight to the gate. And you see the helmeted policemen, heads bowed.
The flowers that were originally put there, now accumulating in huge mounds in Green Park, not far away, to clear the gates.
I'm struck, Mary, by the warm lights glowing in the quadrangle there, where her family are waiting for her, and another bearer party will by now have lifted the coffin from the state hearse and taken it through the grand entrance and in to the old parts of the house. This is this is Buckingham House as it once was when it was first built, at the very back of the building.
So many presidents, so many leaders have come through here, so many figures through the years, famous world figures. This must be the saddest journey of all.
We're so used, aren't we, to seeing Buckingham Palace as the focus of celebration, jubilees or royal weddings, and it is different.
It's a reminder of what the palace looked like one June evening on that Saturday when it was bathed in laser lights and there were drones in the sky, if you remember,
In the shape of a handbag.
in the shape of a handbag, which had been much talked about with Paddington Bear only a few moments before. And a lot of people have been sending me pictures where people have been leaving flowers. Some people have been leaving sandwiches in a little bag, marmalade sandwiches presumably, and one of them I saw earlier said, for later.
Oh, that's very touching. Little Paddington toys and so on. And there was something for everyone in that Jubilee celebration.
It certainly was. And she on the balcony, as for so many times from the very start of her reign, aging over those 70 years, but always dignified, always smiling.
That final view we got of her dressed in bright green with her closest family around her. I think we can go back to Amy Lewis, who's in the crowd. Amy.
Yes, Mary, we obviously saw the Queen's coffin travel up Constitution Hill. There was a huge cheer and clapping here from the crowd. And then as she disappeared momentarily to travel up the Mall. Everyone rushed across, and then outside the front gates behind me of Buckingham Palace waited as the Queen travelled through those gates for one final time here at Buckingham Palace, again to the sound of cheers and clapping. The people here, well-wishers, have been waiting hours to see a glimpse of that coffin, not deterred by the pouring rain that we've had here for the past few hours. Among those who have been waiting are the Hill family from Leicester. But you've been waiting here for hours. Why was it important for you to come?
Well, for me particularly, I felt I had to come and lay some flowers in reflection. I'd met the Queen personally, and that was a wonderful occasion. She was so lovely.
What did you think when you saw the Queen's coffin going through those gates for a final time?
I thought that she was an amazing queen, and she's reigned for so long.
And to be here today, how have you found? I suppose the atmosphere here has been incredibly sombre, hasn't it? But there are huge crowds.
It is huge crowds. It's incredible to think that everybody wants to come and pay their last respects. It's beautiful. Yeah.
And clearly for you, you finished school early, you've travelled all the way down from Leicester. This is something you will be talking about presumably forever.
Yeah.
You'll be able to tell your own grandchildren, won't you?
Yeah. I love my children.
And it's not just the Queen's coffin. We also have stood next to you for, hours now, it seems. And it's been huge members of the royal family that you've seen come through. Tell us just a bit about what sort of the history, I suppose, that you've seen today.
Well, we're going back a long time, aren't we? I mean, it's wonderful. We've seen the King. It's just incredible. And Camilla. And we've seen
Diana.
and Beatrice, and yeah, it's been an amazing experience to be here. I wouldn't have missed it. Although we've been standing here all these hours in the rain, I wouldn't have missed it.
To kind of show you around a bit, as you can see, even though the Queen's coffin has actually got in, there are still thousands of people here. We just touched upon earlier on, just before, of course, we saw the Queen's coffin passing through those gates. We did see the King. We also saw Camilla, Harry, Meghan. We saw the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, and the Queen's granddaughter Beatrice passing in. They are now inside. We are hearing there'll be prayers inside, and then this evening the Queen's coffin will be placed in the bow room, a bow room that's not normally seen by the public, but it does here at Buckingham Palace overlook the 39-acre estate. So that's where the Queen will be spending the evening, and of course members of the royal household can go in and pay their respects. So it will be the Queen's final night here at Buckingham Palace before tomorrow she leaves here and makes her way to Westminster Hall, where she will lie in state for 4 days. If you look around at the crowds now here still, there are lots and lots of people milling around, but as we pass up tomorrow, she passes up to the Mall, there will be thousands queuing to see her coffin as she lies in state. So if you think we've seen huge crowds here today, you can only imagine what it will be like over the coming days.
Yes, indeed. Amy Lewis in amongst the crowds outside Buckingham Palace, just behind me, somewhere in the crowd there. Thank you for the moment. So let's go straight over to Chris Choi, who's at Marble Arch. Chris.
Yes, Mary, the crowds here have drifted away. There was a real perceptible change of atmosphere as the state hearse passed this location. First of all, the sights of those blue flashing lights of the police outriders, then a hush, followed by applause as the Princess Royal's vehicle passed by. Some members of the crowd are still with us. Joshua, what memories has that left you with?
I feel that it's left me with lasting memories. I feel like it was really important for me to be here on this historic occasion. The Queen Elizabeth II has been on the throne for 70 years, given 70 years of good service to our country, and I feel like it was important to be here to pay our respects, to line the streets, and to show our thanks for that.
And what emotions were going through your thoughts as that unfolded?
It was mixed emotions. I mean, I felt like I was there to honour Queen Elizabeth and what she has done for our country, our nation and the world, but also it was sad. We're at the changing point in history, and I think it was a really bittersweet, momentous occasion, and it was a turning point in history, and I'm glad I was here for it.
Turning point, and you were here to see it. Emma, what did you think?
Yeah, I think that we just feel very privileged that we were able to come down in central London, pay our respects, be here, see Princess Anne. It was a really special moment, and I think we just feel very fortunate that we were able to come down and line the streets and be here for it.
It was a very clear mix of emotions, wasn't it? First of all, the silence as the hearse passed by, and then applause, spontaneous applause, just as the Princess Royal passed by.
Yeah, I think that just shows that the British public really have a love and affection for the royals. It was lovely to see that there was that spontaneous applause. As Sarah said, there's sort of mixed emotions going down here. You could feel that in the crowd, and yeah, it was powerful.
And there, as you can probably see behind me now, Marble Arch has snapped back into what it normally is, a very busy junction in the centre of London, but for many people who have been here this evening, memories that I'm sure will be very long lasting. And tomorrow this location once again will be playing an important role, because just behind me in Hyde Park there are going to be screening positions where people will be able to view the procession, and very, very large crowds once again expected then.
Chris Troy at Marble Arch, thank you. And I think what Chris just said is exactly illustrative of what we were talking about, that London paused while the cortege passed through, but the police were determined to inconvenience motorists, pedestrians as little as possible. So Marble Arch was entirely still for a few minutes. The cortege moved through, and it's back again to it's bustling and busy south with buses and taxis moving through. Chris, Jonathan didn't be obviously still with me. What are your thoughts, Chris?
I mean, London did pause, and London doesn't pause for much.
No.
And it definitely did this evening, despite the failing light, despite the rain. But the hearse with the lights inside, that we've since learnt that the Queen had a hand in its design, that Jaguar Land Rover vehicle that she helped to design, which we knew nothing about until this evening, I should point out. That was information that was as much news to me as it was anybody else, that the Queen wanted people to see her in that hearse, despite the dark, but planning to the end, to be seen, a Queen that wants to be seen.
And she would never have known how many people were going to see her, how many came out. How did anyone know how many? That is only in the moment. And those people who came out for a glimpse only will be able to say to their children, their grandchildren, I was there. And the grandchild will be able to say, I was there. I was part of a major historical event, a great change in the story of this country and of the royal family and the institutionality for 1,000 years. It is a very remarkable few days that we're going through. It's a roller coaster emotionally, and very important constitutionally, and very filled with impact for how the life of this country proceeds.
Just as you've been saying tonight that you were there all those years ago, that you remember it still now.
I remember. I wasn't actually there. I was watching the coronation as a 9-year-old child, but I was listening to, as it happens, my father's coronation voice being describing the whole process with great authority.
Absolutely. I mean, such famous commentary. But for you then, looking back at that, and when you look at what has been happening over the last few days, do you find, as so many of us are, that it brings a lump to the throat because it reminds us of the passing of people who are dear to us?
Yes, of course it does. Of course it does. And very powerfully so in moments. But I'm struck very, very much by the notes on the flowers that I've seen outside the palace here and around Green Park. And I've mentioned it before. A couple came up to me and said, hello, can you tell us how to lay our flowers, please? And there was a little boy there, 6-year-old boy, and he was carrying a bunch of flowers. And I said, told them where to go, and I said, why have you come? I expected him to look up to his mother and father. He didn't at all. He said, I've come to pay my respects. That's the effect that had on me. Little tiny things like that, just so touched by the feelings that people have, even a little child, you know, or particularly.
Absolutely. we're just going to pause for a moment because I'd like to go to Martha Fairley, who's at Hyde Park Corner, and who obviously saw the cortege pass by. Martha.
Yes, Mary. Well, about 20 minutes ago, the crowd that had gathered here since 4 o'clock this afternoon went very silent. We saw the police outriders, and then the state hearse passed by illuminated. And from that silence grew a swell of applause, very respectful applause, as the Queen's coffin passed by. Now, amongst the crowd who had been here waiting were Mark and Tanya. You came from Aberystwyth. So why did you come all the way for this moment?
Well, as a very proud Welsh woman, I'm not a natural monarchist, but over the last few days I've come to understand, and it's been a bit of a revelation really, that I'm an Elizabethan, and that part of my life is over, and we came really just to sort of underline that as we move on to a different era.
And just describe that moment for you as the coffin passed by.
It was poignant, emotional. There was a sense of such deep respect coming from the crowd. It was very special, one I won't forget.
And you said that it was an important moment as well for a very personal reason.
Well, you know, my late grandmother, she was born in 1920, and she loved the Queen. She used to talk very fondly about the Queen. She used to recall how beautiful the Queen was in her younger days, you know. And I think my nana would be quite proud of me being here. And on some level, I feel like I'm representing my grandmother today.
And is this the moment for you now? Do you now say, I've seen the Queen and that's it, or will you do other things?
We're still pondering what to do tomorrow. I think the crowds are going to be quite extreme. We have now seen her pass, so therefore tomorrow is less important now. We've paid our respects.
Okay, well, Tanya and Mark, thank you very much indeed. And there have been people from around the world today. We've spoken to people from the Philippines and Australia, as well as those who just took in their normal dog walk and decided to see the Queen passing her coffin today.
Martha, thank you. And just a final thought from you, Jonathan. I mean, we keep saying history is happening, but
Yeah,
it
well,
really is.
that essentially is the final thought. The people who were here as the hearse arrived have wandered off, gone home, gone wherever they go to talk about it with their friends. There are going to be more and more and more people here over the days ahead as everyone, I say everyone, huge numbers of people in one way or another want to be part of this history and to say thank you, and to wish her successor, the King, well as he takes on that huge responsibility. That's the combination of emotions that there will be, I think.
Yes, and things still happening here, Chris. Outriders and cars, and I wonder whether we're seeing the new king returning perhaps just momentarily to Clarence House. Let's see, but talk to us anyway while we're waiting. It is, indeed, it is the new king going past.
There is a movement. Let's have a
Yeah, let's have a look.
It looks like there we are. Yes, that is
Returning to Clarence House, and there we can see them
yes.
in that Rolls Royce that we've become so familiar
Back
with.
to his home just down the road.
Popping back
Back
momentarily.
to
Final thought
Clarence
from you,
House.
Chris.
You know, Mary, it was what the King himself referred to as his mother's last great journey. We've had part of that journey today, from the bright skies in Edinburgh to the gloomy and more sombre ones here in London. But still the crowds came out, and I was struck by a couple of things, Mary. One, the bowed heads of those police motorcycle outriders. They have escorted this Queen to and from many events over the years, as well as members of her family. But then it is a private time for the royal family tonight as they receive their mother's coffin, and as the King returns there to Clarence House tomorrow, he has another big task on his hands to walk up that very road there, the Mall, behind his mother's
Just hope
coffin.
he can see.
Yes, that would be good. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time today. A momentous day, another momentous day. And that brings to an end our special programme on the Queen's final journey as she rests for one last time at Buckingham Palace behind me. From the moment the young Queen first made this palace her home back in 1952, 70 years ago, it has played a central role in her reign. It's where she met prime ministers, entertained world leaders, and even gave birth to Princes Charles and Andrew. Buckingham Palace has also been a focal point for many national commemorations and celebrations over the years. Her last appearance on that famous balcony here was for her Platinum Jubilee celebrations in June, surrounded by her family. Tonight, to applause, to cheers, the Queen was carried through the palace centre gates, and last time to rest in the bowling. Her coffin was received by her children and grandchildren there. Tomorrow she'll be taken to Westminster Hall in the Palace of Westminster to begin the line in state, and then for a final farewell on Monday, and her funeral cortege passes by this historic palace on its way to Windsor Castle. For tonight, from everyone here, goodbye.